You're watching iRacing on the Ghostfire Media Network.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to sunny Austin, Texas, where the AOLL Cup Series is visiting the Circuit of the Americas. I'm Josh Laston, and unfortunately I'm alone tonight because Carl is drunk on a beach somewhere. Curse him for actually taking a vacation, but we won't hold it against him since, again, he's somewhere that's nicer than Austin, Texas was actually today. So those that unfortunately got to see a very, very wet Cup race, it's going to be sunny here no matter what. So let's go ahead, let's talk about the Circuit of the Americas. This is one of the longest tracks that we are actually going to see this season. It's 3.36 miles, 20 turns, and the thing that we need to watch for is these guys are going to have to turn right tonight. It's not something that everybody in the league is great at, but we do have quite a few stellar road drivers. And unfortunately, one of the biggest that we are going to be missing tonight for the second week in a row is Mr. Blake Gordon. He is the AOLL's resident alien when it comes to road, and he's going to be missed. So the two that we're going to have to keep an eye on are Justin Anderson and Dan Shirley. For those that watched on Wednesday in the Sportsman Series, Dan was controlling the race going into the last lap where he had a little bit of a spin and gave Chris Piscini the win at that point. But we are definitely going to be seeing a lot of good running because at least half of the field, we've seen them be great on road courses. Many of them ran the 24 Hours of Daytona. We fielded two teams, and it was just a great time. So since we're talking about 2 minutes, 20 seconds for lap times, let's go ahead and take a bit of a gander out there on track, and let's go ahead and look at our current pole sitter of Dan Shirley, who is in turn 10, which is at the very top of the course, followed up by a long stretch here. And for anybody that watched the Cup race earlier, this is where we got to see all of the rain shenanigans with people getting under one another, and luckily visibility will be perfect today, and hopefully we don't see anyone getting a little bit of a submarine under their car. And the turn that 11, that is easily the heaviest braking zone that these guys will see, and the runoff of that turn is actually just painfully difficult because you have to set yourself up perfectly for a series of right turns. They're actually modeled after the Hockenheimring in Germany, and this whole track takes inspiration from a lot of Formula One courses and was ultimately designed for those cars, not necessarily these behemoths that we're going to be running tonight. So they are meant for cars that are running high downforce, not necessarily something that requires almost solely on mechanical grip. So let's go ahead and see Justin Anderson, who's currently starting second for us, as he's about to come across the line from his second lap, and he pushes it hard out of that turn 20 to see if maybe he can get up closer to Dan Shirley, but actually comes about 0.3 of a second short. And let's go ahead and see Mr. Joe Dinsmore, who is another favorite for the night. One of the road course aces that we have in the league. But he's currently sitting about 4 seconds off of our pole pace. And we'll get to see everybody coming through as our newest member to the Cup Series, Joshua Hanner, is currently in 5th, and he is trying to just salvage whatever he can out of this. I know him personally and helped him a little bit going into the weekend to try to help get him a little bit more confident on road courses. But I know he is just going for consistency and keeping all 4 tires in contact with the road tonight. Right now, the only 2 cars out on track are Joe Dinsmore and Johnny Edward, who is another great road racer. But again, when you're going from a car with hefty downforce and these V8 monsters, it can be a completely different world. Actually hear me go quiet while I take a sip of my soda throughout the night. Luckily, Carl abandoned me on a road course to where I'm not going to have caution fillers, because the format of tonight's race it's going to be 60 minutes, which means there's no set number of laps. We are going to get as many as we can within 60 minutes, and iRacing will actually judge whether the average lap time at the end, when our leader crosses the line, if they will not be able to complete another lap before time elapses, we are going to see the white flag thrown, and we are done with qualifying, which 10 minutes long on this track that's going to take over 2 minutes to get around. It's going to take some time, and we do actually have a relatively small field tonight with only 17. Let's go ahead and run through our starting grid. So, starting on pole is Daniel Shirley, second is Justin Anderson, third Brian McFerrin, fourth Joe Dinsmore, fifth Joshua Hanner, sixth Adam Wood, 7 Tony Pandon, 8th Brandon Bernhardt, 9th Kevin Haas, 10th Andrew Burgess, 11th Brian Tiffany, 12th Timothy St. Jean, 13th Ed Springer, 14th William Klingbill, 15th John Gordon, 16th Johnny Edward, and 17th Mike Burgess. And those bottom 4 did not manage to pull out a full time, but luckily for everybody at home, we are not going to be doing a full lap to get everybody up to speed. We're actually starting about halfway, so that is turn 11. So we have the technical second half of this race that we are going to be going through behind the pace car before we actually go live. And much to everyone's dismay, I'm not going to be using the ticker tonight because I would much rather have the times always up there, especially since we have a smaller field tonight. I'd rather everyone be capable of seeing the times as they come through. unfortunately, I will warn everyone that I do have a co-commentator tonight. It's just a hungry cat that most likely everyone can hear. But we will be going racing in a few more turns here as the pace car peels off as we hit turn 20. We are lined up 2 by 2, and everybody is getting themselves ready for that run up the hill. As we are going green, and Dan Shirley gets a great jump out to the front, gets a good car length over, gets himself positioned inside of turn 1, and gets to run his line through there while most of the field is going 2 by 2. And hopefully we're going to avoid any massive incidents, and it looks like we may have had something go around there. So let's go ahead and see what happened here. I'm hoping it was just my timing and scoring saying everybody slowed down and we don't have Tony Pandan just taking out the field here. Nah, it was just luckily everybody just getting slow. So let's go back to live with our leaders, where Dan Shirley has actually opened up a good second gap to Justin Anderson with Joe Dinsmore, and we are actually already starting to see the field spread out. But let's take a look here at Adam Wood, who is amongst a pack of traffic. Joshua Hanner in front of him. Tony Pandan getting a little squirrely behind him, trying to get a good run off of turn 9. As Adam Wood throws one down on the inside of Joshua Hanner, he takes the wide line to the outside, which should give him a good run down this backstretch, and he should be able to hold that position away from Adam Wood. And Adam does tuck in behind him, but Joshua Hanner is now actually setting his sights on Brian McPheron going into 11. That is a terrible angle. As Hanner is just right there, just takes it nice slow. We shouldn't be seeing these guys take that extra wide turn like we were seeing in the NASCAR Cup race today. We should be seeing them stay planted on the track, because iRacing does not like it when you go over that white line. But it definitely looks like right now our leader is just going to go ahead and open up quite the gap, as he is 2.5 seconds ahead of Justin Anderson. Justin Anderson's back there, and Joe Dinsmore is also just 2 seconds behind Justin Anderson. And then let's go ahead back into this little pack, because this is where the racing is interesting. Josh Hanner gets a little bit loose coming out of 20. And I'm looking back, and let's see, it looks like we may have had a little bit of an issue towards the back of the field. As Mike Burgess, narrowly avoids somebody, and it looks like that was actually St. Jean. The part of the track that he's getting loose here on, it's a little bit of a hill, and if you're not careful or lift there, your back end's going to come around, and looks like that's unfortunately what happened with him. It looks like John Gordon gets his way around everyone and safely, and we did actually have a little bit of a tag there between William Klingbill and Mike Burgess. That's what it looks like. Yeah, that was the 82 of Mike Burgess, just tags him going into 10 and throws off all momentum, and it looks like John Gordon also got a little loose there. And let's see, it also looks like Andrew Burgess had a little bit of an issue coming through the last turn, just gets himself around and gives us a little premature of a burnout, but keeps the car clean. Tires are going to be a little rough there, but collects it and gets himself back out onto the track. And let's see, looks like Mr. Mike Burgess, just gets a little bit hairy through that first sector, which is a sweeping section that ultimately is mirroring a lot of the turns of Silverstone in the UK. And it's a throttle control section that ultimately makes it to where if you do go a little bit gung-ho, we are gonna see it spinning around. And the leaders have opened up quite a gap between each other to where we're seeing at least a second where Mr. Joe Dinsmore is currently 5 seconds behind Justin Anderson in the fight for second. As gets a little bit, goes into the first turn a little bit hot, but gets a good drive away. And he seems to be getting a little bit of pressure right now from Brian McFerrin, but he is still a second behind him. And it looks like we may have had another incident. So let's take a quick gander at Mr. Ed Springer and see what happened. As this is a run down into that last turn, which is a very tight turn. I feel like we may see quite a few people making that exact same move and leaving some swirls on that apex right there, laying down a little bit of extra rubber. So right now, our closest gap is Mr. Adam Wood trying to get up onto Tony Panda. Gets a good jump out of turn 10. Should be able to take advantage of that draft going into 11. We're going to see if maybe he is going to be brave on the brakes and make his way down inside. Looks like he was just taking a cautious approach going into the turn because he may have been able to get a little arrow loose with somebody directly in front of him. And, oh, it looks like we may have our next victim, Mr. John Gordon, in the run down to 9. Just a little hot on the throttle. Puts himself to the inside wall, loses the front end, and gets himself moving again. We definitely need to keep an eye on this battle. Mr. Adam Wood is looking to get himself back into the top 5 and getting himself ready for a run up the hill to the first turn. Looks like he's going to get a good launch going up. And with turn 1 being as wide as it is, he has quite a few options for how to try to make this pass if he tries to. And it looks like he's just going to run conservative, get himself around the turn, and try to make up some time going through this complex of sweeping turns. And it looks like, I'm not sure what happened here, but Josh Hanner was running up in 5th, and it looks like we may have a few times he went off track, and I can't not take this opportunity to give him a little bit of a hard time as, yep, it's the run into 9. Probably just got a little bit greedy coming out of 8, lost traction, and then ultimately ended up relinquishing a few positions, falling back, and then most recently, right here, just goes a little bit wide in 19, and brings himself back up, collects it, and gets into 20, and comes back on. But he has dropped 7 spots down into 12th at this point, as we're seeing Tony Pandan and Adam Wood now are catching up to Brian McFerrin, and coming into, I'm trying to figure out where they are, which on this track that is this long, this many turns, it's kind of difficult. All right, they are in 16 right now, as Tony Pandan actually goes a little bit wide coming out of the turn, and that may actually give Adam Wood, as he does the same thing in 17, but manages to hang on to it and keep Adam Wood at bay for the time being. As they come through, 19 getting on to that front stretch, as we are about 10 minutes into this race. I'm not sure why it's currently saying that it is Daytona, but okay. Sometimes it's best just not to ask. But right now, we are watching this as it is easily the closest battle that we have on track, and it's Tony Pandon who is actually closing in on Brian McFerrin with only about a half a second difference between the two of them. So these guys are fighting as Tony manages to pull away a little bit from Adam Wood and just continually keep himself relatively safe going through these sectors, and especially going on this back stretch. It's not going to be his friend, as Adam Wood, just since we do have a line, as Brian McFerrin is actually catching Mr. Joe Densmore. And we're going to see this group slowly catch up. But I'm going to go back as Johnny Edward and William Klingbill have caught up to Brandon Bernhardt, and they are going to be looking to get up into 7th as Brandon goes very wide in 12, giving those two the opportunity to get around them. And Johnny takes 7th spot, but William Klingbill does have about a second and a half behind him, and these two are not going to be pulling any punches for a little while. I want to get back up here to the battle for 4th, as Tony Pandon now is right on the bumper of Brian McFerrin, and Adam Wood is sitting there waiting in the wings, hoping that maybe one of the others will push the other offline, and he'll be able to capitalize on someone else's mistake, if not for one position, possibly two. But they get a great run coming off of turn 1. As they enter this sweeping section that there's no braking, it's all throttle control through here to keep the car planted. As it looks like we may have had a few more incidents. Yeah, these ones are probably not going to call out John again, as we see Tony Pandon get loose. And that brings Adam Wood right into the picture to take over 5th. As we go into turn 10, we're going to see who gets the better launch off of this turn, and Adam gets a great late apex that should give him a run down the backstretch, but it looks like Tony actually had the better jump, and Adam is just going to fall back and wait for another opportunity. So as we are hitting about quarter race distance, I'm going to take a moment to go get myself another beverage, and we'll hear from Mr. Randy Pepper, who is off playing a gig tonight rather than running his hated road races, and a little message from our sponsor.
For 20 years, the Guitar Attic has been your home for used and vintage guitars in the Daytona Beach area and at GuitarAttic.com. The Guitar Attic is your home for used and vintage guitars. Whether you're looking for that collector's piece or that beginner piece, they've got you covered. With names like Fender, Gibson, Gretsch, Ibanez, Martin, Taylor, and much, much more, the Guitar Attic has all the guitars you need. And bass players, they haven't forgot about you. They've got all the top names. Amplifiers from Friedman, Victoria, Fender, Boss, and many, many more. They also have the largest selection of used pedals anywhere in the Southeast. The Guitar Attic, located at 1672.5 Ridgewood Avenue, just north of Flomish in Holly Hill, Florida. Also, check us out online at guitarattic.com.
As we are back, I'm loaded up with another Coca-Cola as we are watching this battle between Brian McFerrin and Tony Pandon. And it looks like Brian may be holding up Tony. And that lets Adam Wood jump back into the picture, and there's only a half second separating these three cars as Tony makes a dive and a lockup going into 10 to where he doesn't get the greatest jump off. But he has closed that gap a little bit more and is right in the draft and should be able to, as we come down into 11, he may be trying to outbreak him again and get down inside, but Brian is making that car wide. So we're going to take a quick moment. It looks like we may have had another incident on the track. As Tim St. Jean, just gets a little bit loose in turn 4 and collects himself, gets himself back out onto the track. But it also looks like Mike Burgess also had a little bit of an incident. He's still running without that front end and just gets a little bit greedy coming out of turn 19. And it looks like he's actually going to make his way down into pit lane. Probably get all of that fixed as... Oh, hold on. It looks like Adam Wood had an incident going into turn 20. Just gets a little excited getting on the throttle there. Spins himself around. And that's unfortunate because that battle with Tony and Brian was heating up and looking like it's going to be a little bit fun. Also looks like Mr. Josh Hanner going into 11. Oh, looks like he overdrove it just a little bit going into the corner. Okay, I'm not seeing anything. Why is this being considered a crash? Unless it's here. Nope. Just went a little slow. He overshot it, and that's the end of it. So let's go back to the best race that we have right now on track, and it's the battle for 4th. Because right now, Mr. Dan Shirley, I think even if we go to the Goodyear, we can barely see Justin Anderson in frame there behind him. He's a good 2 turns back. And Justin Anderson has 21 seconds over Joe Dinsmore in 3rd. And yeah, we're seeing he's a good quarter of a track ahead. But definitely the battle right now is between Brian McFerrin and Tony Pandon, as these two are just not giving up. And we're coming close to a third of the race done, as it looks like Mike Burgess, after that last incident, decided to go ahead and park it for the night, as he is currently out of the race. And that's unfortunate. Mike has, as we see Tony Pandon get down low, go into turn 20. The thing with turn 20 is if you not have a good jump off of it. It's not going to be that easy to make a run into turn one. And of course, he's making me eat my words as he throws one down low on Brian McFerrin. And we are going to see him relinquish fourth place. And now it's time for Tony to go ahead and set his sights on Joe Dinsmore. Though I'm not 100% sure if it was Brian McFerrin was holding him up a little bit. But as we can see on the tower, he's a solid second slower than Joe right now on that last lap. But Dan Shirley has 3 seconds on him on the last lap, and a solid second on Justin Anderson in second place. So we are going to be seeing a lot of this. And I'm learning, apparently, that our software does not like it when people go slow. As we're sitting here watching Brian McFerrin, it said he crashed. But he just took 10 a little bit slowly. And let's go ahead and jump back in the field to the battle for 7th, as William Klingbill is closing down on Brandon Bernhardt going into 11. And he also has Andrew Burgess joining the party, but he overbrakes a little bit there as Brandon gets squirrely coming out of 11 and lets Klingbill go ahead and jump him and get himself up into 7th, where he has made up 7 places from where he started tonight. And again, I'm seeing another one, but this one I wasn't watching, so let's see. Looks like Andrew Burgess had a little bit of an issue in front of Adam Wood. And, just gets a little bit loose in 12, almost tags Adam, but he manages to avoid contact and sets sail. But we can actually take a look at right now as Tony Pandon has... I'm not sure what happened here, but Justin Anderson has... Justin decided to take an early pit stop, puts himself back into 5th, coming out of the pits. I'm wondering if he's planning a 2-stopper tonight, because that itself may be the best thing. So let's take a quick look and see what his lap times look at, as he is hot on the tail of Brian McFerrin. But those new tires should be able to help him move straight through this field, as we're seeing Justin is quickly gaining on those guys that have not pitted yet. So it may be worth the extra time on pit lane to keep those fresh tires, especially on this long of a track. Let's see if Dan Shirley, as he reacts to Justin's pit stop and makes his way down pit lane. So we're gonna see if if everyone decides to react at this point, because tires are going to be critical on this track. It's a hot track, and especially with these cars not really designed for these flat of turns, it's going to be abusive of those Goodyears. So we will see if, right now, I want to take a look as Justin Anderson is coming around the last turn, and Dan Shirley just left the pits. Let's see how much of a jump he's actually going to have, as he is still 2 2 seconds in front of Joe Dinsmore, so he essentially got a free stop out of that, even over who was in third. So this race is going to be strategic for quite a few people, as we're going to see lap times. Right now, Justin Anderson is going to be setting his first full lap on these fresh tires, as he is currently chasing down Joe Dinsmore, who has yet to pit, going into turn 10, as he gets a little bit late, gets a lot of that sausage curve on the inside of 10, but he should be able to get around Joe Dinsmore, who is a teammate and probably knows that he has those fresh tires, just lets him past. And he's now setting sail 6 seconds away from our leader, Dan Shirley. Let's take a quick look, as it looks like, allegedly, Mr. Adam Wood had an incident going through the S's. Oh, he catches way more of that curve than it's designed to take and sends himself flying. Collects it, but hopefully he didn't take too much suspension damage there. But let's go ahead and see. Right now, the difference between these two, and that's not the one I wanted. Let's pull up these sector times here. And of course, those are the two that I wanted. Right now, Dan Shirley, after he was able to get his tires warmed up, was a half second faster than Justin Anderson. But now that both are running on their tires, fully warmed up, Dan Shirley barely has an edge over Justin Anderson. So the undercut didn't really do all that much for Justin Anderson in terms of making up time. And now that Dan Shirley has his tires warmed, we aren't seeing too much of a difference. We're seeing them just go neck and neck, but we're seeing the gap between them shrink significantly, which means Dan is taking his time. Oh, as I look at that, it's actually, there's a bit of lap traffic directly in front of him, and that looks like John Gordon, so he's slowed down to be able to get around him, as the front end of that Endeavor Racing car is missing. But Dan Shirley in Sector 3 manages to make up a reasonable chunk of the time that he lost there, and has opened up the gap to over 6 seconds, as we see John Gordon going around right in front of him. Luckily, Justin did not get caught up in that. And unfortunately, I have to pick on Adam LeBou today, as it looks like he had another little incident here. Going into 10, just locks it up, can't quite hold on to it, and actually loses it. Oh, no, manages to hang on to the position, but Josh Hanner is right there on him. So let's go ahead and watch Adam Wood and Josh Hanner, as Josh Hanner has been faster in the last 2 sectors, but that does include that blown turn 10, and that has brought him back up into this race, as he is battling to get into 8th, and those very important points for his chances of getting into the chase this coming year. as Adam gets squirrely coming out of turn 20, and that gives Josh Hanner the opportunity to get around him, even though it seems like they were, well, no, that just doesn't keep it there, as he was 3/4 of a second faster in the final sector, and that alone gives him the opportunity to get around him and start working his way back up into the 5th position where he did start today. But I'm going to go ahead and let's show this. Johnny Edward, who did not put down a qualifying time today, has moved up 11 spots to be in the top 5. And he is just a man on a mission. Currently, just trying to make his way back up. And he is 1 second back. No, never mind. That was a little time in the scoring there. Where he is 8 seconds back from Tony Pandon. But we also see that Mountain Dew car lurking in the background of William Klingbill, who is always fast on these road courses, just has a tendency to end up making a mistake that will drop him down the order. But he has also made up 8 positions tonight, as we have reached the halfway point of the night, and neither of these guys have made their pit stops yet. Where we are seeing the very back of the field, 10 down, have made their way into the pits. And then our 2 leaders have also gone in. So we may be seeing some guys trying to stretch this out into only a 2-stop race, as Joe Dinsmore and Tony Pandon. Joe Dinsmore takes back 3rd, as Tony Pandon, Johnny Edward, and William Klingbill all dive into the pits at the same time. So let's see what this race off of pit road ends up looking like, because this could be an opportunity for someone to just take a splash and dash with fuel and make their way out. So let's watch the pit race off of pit road. As William Klingbill manages to take the position from Johnny Edward through a brilliant pit stop, and he has taken over 8th place from Johnny Edward. And it looks like apparently Tony Pandon, who was in front of these two, goes a little bit wide off of turn 1, loses a little bit of speed, and now has Brian McFerrin fighting him to take back the spot that he lost a few laps prior. As Johnny Edward is going to try to battle his way back on those fresh tires, hopefully not mowing through them in the process, as we see both of them get a little bit loose coming off of turn 8, as Brian McFerrin allegedly just had a little bit of an incident, and I have a feeling it's just because he goes a little bit deep into the corner, and our timing and scoring just doesn't like that. Yeah, just a little too deep into the corner, and makes his way back out, and unfortunately ends up through that little bit of a gaffe, losing Tony Pandon by about 2.5 seconds at this point. So while we have a little bit of a lull, let's go ahead and hear a little bit more about the AOLL.
The AOLL Racing League began racing in the early 90s with Papyrus's NASCAR Racing and has grown over the decades, now racing on the iRacing platform. The AOLL has 3 divisions: the TNT Series Developmental Division for our beginners and those getting back into racing, the Cup Series for our veterans and Class A licensed drivers, The Sportsman Division racing the Gander outdoor trucks with drivers from the TNT and Cup Series. You can catch all of the AOLL action here on Ghostfire Media.
So we are back out here racing, and Joe Dinsmore, while we were on break, finally made his first dive into the pits and comes out right behind Brian McFerrin and just blows right past him. Those fresh tires are going to make all the difference. And since he waited until 35 minutes into the 60-minute race, he's going to be able to push a little bit harder than the guys at the front with those fresh tires and not have to worry nearly as much. But the big thing to keep in mind is if we look at the gaps between Justin Anderson and Brandon Bernhardt, who's currently in third, they basically can both take a free pit stop and manage to keep their positions. So I'm looking forward to seeing what their plan is, because right now the only person who has yet to pit is our third place runner in Brandon Bernhardt. And I'm wondering if that's his plan, is hoping that maybe those two will take a pit stop. Maybe he can get a lap led in this process. Let's take a quick look at our incident. Brian McFerrin probably just breaks a little too deep into 11 and tries to hold on to it rather than going into the runoff area and slows down significantly. Also, we have an incident back here in 15th at the exact same spot. Ed Springer just goes a little bit hot, deciding to take the same line that the Cup cars were taking in the rain. Not necessarily a crash, but iRacing again. They're really strict with the white lines. So just as I was actually thinking he was going to try to stay out longer, this could be the very tail end of his run and couldn't go any longer. We see Brandon Bernhardt dive into the pits. He was the only person yet to pit. But this is actually slowly dropping him back in the order, where Adam Wood, the next person behind him, is Joshua Hanner, who happens to be 40 seconds behind, so he is safely going to be coming back out in 9th. And it's somewhat unfortunate because we have seen Joshua Hanner did qualify 5th. He can put the runs together. He just apparently is a little bit too inconsistent, and we know he excels at some of the intermediates, and we've seen in previous weeks, not necessarily a road course guy. But we should be seeing another closed circuit member making his Cup debut in a few weeks, and our winner from Wednesday in the Sportsman Series of Chris Pacini, he's going to be another person to contend with on these road courses, most likely, in general. So we should be actually seeing his debut, I do believe, in 2 weeks. But for those that are watching and interested in running with these guys, we recommend going through, requesting to join the AOLL. We have our TNT division, which is our intro division, and the one I currently run in, that is meant for C-Class and below. And we've run the ARCA car right now. We're about midway through the second season, and it's a great time to run. Everybody's just out there to learn. Then we also have the Sportsman, which brings both the TNT and the Cup together, where we run the Gander trucks. And I'll admit that is what we probably would have the best racing in, just because it's a lot of fun running with these guys, and we broadcast it on Wednesdays. Thursday nights is the TNT, as already discussed. And then Sundays, we have the top flight of the AOLL, and what you're currently watching. Right now, if you do have the skills to join the Cup, we have you run a few of the sportsman races just so we can get an understanding of if you're actually ready, but if you come in with an A or a B license in iRacing, generally the plan is to run a few sportsman races, then bring yourself up into the Cup. I want to stop talking and recruiting for the AOLL and look at this battle that we currently have for third place, where Joe Dinsmore has gotten himself within a second of Tony Pandon and is looking to get around him on the back stretch, but he's not close enough to do much more than close the gap down to about 3/4 of a second. But Joe's amazing on those hard braking areas. But Tony manages to keep that gap and continue to run away from Joe. Right now, this is one of the closest battles on track, but we can jump back a little bit as right now Brian McFerrin is closing down on William Klingbill coming through the final sector and looking to take back 6th place. He was running in 4th for quite a while, and it's unfortunate to see him drop this far back. But it looks like he actually made a pass, so let's go ahead and see what happens here. Oh, William makes the pass going into turn 1. And then just starts to run away. And shortly after that, Mr. Joshua Hanner makes a pass to get 9th from Brandon Bernhardt, going into turn 8, and just makes the run down the hill and clears him there as, of course, while I'm away, Joe Dinsmore gets around Tony Pandon to retake 3rd position on the front stretch and going up into turn 1. And unfortunately, that is now the closest battle that we have on track, with 18 minutes to go. It's somewhat strange that, for the most part, we had been running road races and the AOLL is 40 minutes. Thursday at Watkins Glen in the TNT, we did 50. I do believe that that was just Blake messing with us and making sure we actually had to make a pit stop, which I'm not going to complain about. Adds a little bit of extra juice into it. Running 60 minutes here makes it to where people really actually had to think about it being a 2 or 3 stop strategy. Because right now, we see our leader dive into the pits, and he's on a 3 stop. But Justin Anderson was far enough behind that he could react if he wanted to and actually make that jump into the pits. But these two are now only 6 seconds separated. But Justin Anderson set the fastest lap of the race with a 2 minutes 16 seconds on his last lap. So I'm just curious if in that process, yeah, I missed Justin diving into the pits. That's not surprising. But that 5-second undercut is massive right now, because most guys are lapping currently in the 220s, and Justin got in, got his tires, and put down a 2:16.71. As Justin goes for the massive launch off of turn 10 and manages to go ahead and try to close down that gap where he is under 3 seconds away from Dan Shirley, who is looking to redeem himself after that last lap gaffe on Wednesday in the Sportsman Series. And he's being quickly followed by the current points leader in the Cup Series of Justin Anderson. But he also has a much larger gap than he had over Chris Bassini on Wednesday, so he can dial things back and make sure that these last 15 minutes he doesn't make another mistake like that. So that means we probably only have 7 laps to go, and right now it looks like Mr. Tony Bandon had another issue going into turn 11. As he was chasing down Joe Dinsmore and had quite the run. Just got a little overexcited, locked it up, and ended up separating himself a little bit. So right now, Joe Dinsmore, while he's not out of the woods yet with Tony, he has a little more comfortable of gap. And after seeing the lap times that our leaders are currently running, I wonder if they are having the idea of diving into the pits again. But this mid-pack and the battle third and farther back, it's a little too close to be able to make that free stop. As we aren't seeing much, now that the tires have neutralized between Dan and Justin, we aren't seeing much of a shakeup at the front where it's still a little over 3 seconds. And they are just not relinquishing any kind of a gap. And of course, as I say that, Justin drops a little bit, but also makes it right back up. Right now, Tony Pandon on Joe Dinsmore in the battle for third is the closest that we currently have on track. And right now, they're running pretty much identical lap times. Tony has about a 1/10 of a second on Joe. But that's not going to be enough to make up a full second that he has right now. Fortunately, this is the best finish that we are going to be, if it finishes the way it is, this is going to be the best finish that Joe Dinsmore has had in quite a while, and it's good to see. This should be the confidence boost that he needs, because we really, really expect him to be up at the front every week. And he's just had some bad luck as of recent. He's been getting solid top 10s, but not really threatening too much for the leaders. And he is ultimately going to be a challenge in the chase, and this could be the race that gets him back to where he needs to be. And I'm hoping so, because I love watching Joe battle for wins, and because he is just an absolutely amazing driver. But he is now dropping Tony Pandon, and was 0.4 of a second faster on that last lap, and the gap is now nearly 2.5 seconds. As Brian McFerrin has made his dive into the pits. And I'm just wondering if he's just having tire trouble at this point and just decides that for the last 5 or so laps of this race, it's best for him to have fresh rubber. As Adam Wood makes the jump up into 7th with him diving in. right now, our current running order is Dan Shirley up in first place, Justin Anderson second, Joe Dinsmore third, Tony Pandon in fourth, Johnny Edward in fifth, William Klingbill sixth, Adam Wood seventh, Joshua Hanner making a good comeback, getting himself back into eighth, Brandon Bernhardt in ninth, and Brian McFerrin comes out of the pits in 10th. And Tony Pandon gets a little bit loose. Let's see what happened there. Oh, gets very loose and going into turn 8. And that is a blind corner cresting a hill, meaning it is difficult to keep these cars with traction coming into that turn. So that is a very difficult turn. I'm really surprised that is the first incident that we've seen tonight. Going into that turn, we've seen quite a few coming out of it. But that ultimately brings Johnny Edward into the fight for fourth as he gets a little bit of a lockup coming out of turn 11. And that has Johnny right on his bumper as he goes wide through 13. Manages to hold it because that sets him up for the next turn. And I'm a few turns behind because some of these look so similar. But Johnny gets the perfect line for a run off of turn 20, but doesn't quite get the traction that Tony does. Let's see if he decides to be brave and throw one in on turn 1 as Tony's taking the inside line there to shut the door. That makes it difficult to get a run out of 1 and into 2 as Johnny pokes his nose down coming through 2, but Tony manages to keep the lead going into the complex of sweeping turns that is 3 through 5. But he is coming into the blind section of this track and needs to really keep an eye on the throttle because this is where he lost it on the last lap as Johnny Edward keeps it tidying, getting himself down below him on the run down into turn 10, gets it done, but Tony setting up for an under move as Johnny goes very wide out of 10, but that should give him a run down this backstretch. And oh, this is going to be dangerous into this heavy braking zone, going side by side as they hit the brakes. And let's see who manages to come out on top. Tony with that inside line, he has to worry about his launch off the turn. And we are seeing him hold on to that lead, getting the ideal position as Johnny Edwards stays low in the turn and manages to make the pass off the turn. But now Tony has to worry about William Klingbill. While these two are battling, he's just waiting. And these three are just going to be duking it out over these last 6, or, well, no, I've already said 6. We probably only have about 4 laps to go in this race. And these guys have to be chewing through their tires. Those guys are definitely going to need to lay off for a little bit if they want to be able to battle it out at the end and have something to keep the others behind. As we go through the final turn, Tony Pandon gets a little bit squirrely, as does William Klingbill. And right now, Johnny Edward, it has truly nothing to worry about as Tony, he's been taking that inside line. Johnny gets a little bit of a lockup in turn 1, and Tony makes his way around him to retake 4th position. I'm glad these guys are really going. Oh, as he goes around, and can the other guys stay around? Oh, that is unfortunate. That was the worst place imaginable for that to happen. It's such a high-speed section, and going around missing one of the turns. That's just unfortunate because they were racing brilliantly through that. But unfortunately, it's not over for Johnny Edward now. He has William Klingbeil right on his bumper. Gets a little bit of a lockup going into 10, but manages to keep it together and get himself going. As William Klingbeil, I kind of want to go. And let's go on board with Mr. Klingbeil going down this backstretch. We hit the braking zone. And if you get this wrong, you are in trouble. Dropping down into first to get the best jump you possibly can, as we see Johnny Edward going a little bit harder than he needed to, which ultimately sends Klingbeil into a bit of a preventative measure. That would have been the perfect time for him to just take advantage of an error, but Klingbeil just decides to be a gentleman and not end up finishing off Mr. Edward. But right now these guys are running hard, and I wonder how much of the rear tires that Johnny ended up using trying to get around Tony, and that's what's leading us to that error. Right now, I'm going to take a quick jump back as Brian McFerrin is currently battling with Brandon Bernhardt. He's about a half a second back through this last sector. And looks like he may be able to make a pass to get himself back up into 9th. And those fresh tires that he's on, they are definitely going to be helping him through this process. But the problem is, Brandon Bernhardt is making that car wide and holding his line and not making any mistakes, and it's the commentator's curse. Locks it up going into turn 1, and Brian gets the pass done. So let's get ourselves back up here in the battle for 4th. As William Klingbeil, with only 3 minutes to go, they're far enough back that we probably have 3 laps to go as Johnny Edward gets loose. Coming out of 10. And these guys probably murdered their good years battling earlier, and now we're seeing Adam Wood joining this fray as Johnny continues to get loose coming out of turns. I just think he managed to just overheat those tires, meaning they're ballooned up and he's not getting the contact patch that he really wants. And unfortunately, every time you do it again, it just exacerbates the issue, as he manages to pull away. I'm not exactly sure what's happening. I don't know if William Klingbeil managed to do the same thing, as Adam Wood makes the pass on William Klingbeil to get himself up into the top 5. And he is currently just running away. Going into the last turn, takes it nice and tidy, keeps his traction, and now he's just going to set his sights on trying to get back up to Johnny Edward. And right now, depending on where our leaders are, let's take a quick gander as, okay, I should have been paying a little bit more attention to this. Justin Anderson has caught up to our leader of Dan Shirley, and we are in the section that he ended up making a mistake on Wednesday, with Justin Anderson pushing at nearly the exact same point. So we should be seeing them take the white flag this time around, as Dan gets a little bit loose again. I'm wondering if Justin was just taking his time, conserving his tires, making sure he kept a good enough gap, and after a little while started to push when he knew that Dan's tires were a little bit loose. We should be seeing the white flag as they cross the line this time. Yes, we have the white flag. Unfortunately, our system does not like showing it when we're on timed races, but we have about 3 miles left to go, and we have a great battle for the lead right now, with Justin Anderson only about a half a second back from Dan Shirley. Will he be able to keep himself composed, unlike Wednesday, to take home the win? He's just keeping it good and tidy through the S's because, in all honesty, passing here is not going to be easy without any kind of a mistake, as Justin is using every bit of the road there to get any kind of an advantage, and he is right there on the bumper as we go into 10. Who's going to be the bravest one on the brakes? As it looks like Justin managed to barely hold off from getting into the back end of Dan, but now we have a drag race down the back stretch. And with Justin having that toe, he just must not have gotten a great jump, as he is right on the bumper of Dan Shirley. He has to know that Chris Piscini on Wednesday managed to keep pressure on him and cause an issue as he goes wide into turn 12. Justin gets the pass done, and Dan Shirley has relinquished the lead for the first time tonight in the same spot that he did on Wednesday. I love you, Dan. I'm not meaning to rub salt in the wounds, but that is just unfortunate. He was the class of the field and makes a mistake, and I'll admit what is my least favorite turn on this track of turns that I don't like. As he gets real loose, goes around, and Joe Dinsmore, unfortunately, is not close enough to be able to really capitalize on that one. But we have Justin Anderson crossing the line and taking the win. Oh, that is just unfortunate, as Justin is just taking the wide line on turn 1 and going to go ahead and take it easy. Joe Dinsmore currently is wrapping up this race with a nice comfortable gap to bring 3rd place home. And wow, what a race we had tonight. Unfortunately, we see history repeat itself. And we just got to see the error rear its ugly head again. And it was not nearly the same kind of an error that was had previously, as we're still waiting on everybody else to cross the line, as we see Adam Wood take the checkered, followed by William Klingbill in 6th. Adam gets a top 5, moves up 1 position. William Klingbill managed to move up 8 positions from where he qualified, but definitely Mr. Johnny Edward coming up from starting in 16th to finish 4th. As we're just waiting for the last few, as Mr. Joshua Hanner takes the flag. Brandon Bernhardt is making his way around, followed by Brian McPheron to wrap out the top 10. And let's go ahead and make a quick run through our results tonight. In first, we had Justin Anderson. Second, Dan Shirley. 3rd, Joe Densmore. 4th, Johnny Edward. 5th, Adam Wood. 6th, William Klingbill. 7th, Tony Pandon. 8th, Joshua Hanner. 9th, Brandon Bernhardt. 10th, Brian McFerrin. 11th, Andrew Burgess. 12th, Timothy St. Jean. 13th, Kevin Haas. 14th, Brian Tiffany. 15th, Ed Springer. 16th, John Gordon. And finally, in 17th, Mike Burgess. So let's go ahead and bring up Mr. Justin Anderson. Hey, Justin, this is Josh in the booth. Do you have a copy?
I do indeed.
What a run tonight. I have to ask, before I ask him, what was Dan Shirley saying when he hit turn 12?
So he did. Both of us are pushed to talk, so I don't know what he was saying in the immediate moment. Nor would I have pushed the button in that immediate moment either. He probably will have to go fetch his water bottle for the second time, though.
I do have to say, great race tonight. Kept it clean all night. Were you guys were you planning a 3-stopper tonight, or was it just in the moment?
I was planning a 3-stopper from practice and everything else, because for me, the way I run and the way I shift, 30 minutes was, right on the edge. And you never know when a timed race, when the leader's going to take the white flag. So if there had been one extra lap, I would have not been able to make it. So I always had planned on doing 2 stops throughout the race, just in order to be safe with fuel, and because I also, happen to burn up the tires a lot too. So that allowed me to kind of mitigate that a little bit.
So I do have to say, tonight, Steel Horse Racing was the class of the field. You guys had 1, 2, 3.
We did a lot of practice for this race back for the last few weeks. I'm actually happy. I've been struggling both in the Sportsman and this series with making mistakes either in qualifying the race or both. So I'm just happy to put together a clean race, and I really expected to finish second. Daniel was the class of the field, and he misjudged the pits that I had. He thought that I had not taken tires and had done fuel only, but I had taken tires. And as I started to catch him, I was like, oh, he's being a nice guy and just not stopping the field so badly. He was just letting me catch up a little bit. He didn't take tires the second stop, which makes a lot more sense based on how it is now. But I will tell you that when I of course had watched the broadcast and I knew what had happened in the truck race. And when I saw going into that turn that I was close to him, I'm like, do I just back off and let him have this? Because I, can't break his heart twice.
No, unfortunately, I may have harped on that a little bit too much during the race to where he may not like me after this. But
you pick him, he'll still like you.
I pick him frequently because you know what? There's no denying he unfortunately may be getting the Mark Martin monkeyer, other than the fact that he did win last week, because he's getting a lot of podiums. But
that's what it takes, though. So he is a winner, and it's circumstances in this league, because there are so many drivers who can win. It really takes circumstances to be able to pull into victory lane, just like this race for me. So he keeps putting himself in position. I've envisioned him going on like a Harry Gant or a Mark Martin. Remember, Mark Martin did win 4 races in a row, just like Harry Gant did. I could see Daniel doing the exact same thing.
I fully agree, but you're always going to be there. And right now, this is just going to pad your points lead.
It's easy to pad the points lead when the points leader doesn't show up for the race. So, Blake will be back next week, and he'll be back on track, obviously. I think we're at Charlotte next week, and that's a strong track for him, Hanner, Steve, Joe. So there will be the top 10 is going to be loaded next week. Or 2 weeks. I'm sorry. So it's going to be, repeating in this league is never easy. But again, the positions that Daniel keeps putting himself in, I think that he can do it.
No, I have to commend you, because you were the same way. You had a rough race last week. and coming back out, putting together just an absolute banger of a clean race tonight. You earned tonight.
I appreciate that. And I can't wait to watch the broadcast.
I'm alone, so you get to hear me ramble a lot.
Fine.
And luckily, until that last lap, I'm going to say that I was commentating on the midfield because there was a brilliant battle for fourth. And, of course, as I was focusing on them, it was one commentator's curse after another.
Well, thankfully you didn't pick me this week, so it doesn't matter.
But, no, it was a great race. I'm looking forward, well, I'll admit, a week off is going to be brilliant, but I'm looking forward to Charlotte. I kind of wish it was next week because, honestly, I love watching you guys on the intermediates because it's much more of a strategic track, and getting to see the brilliant strategies that you guys have thrown out are just a pleasure to watch.
Well, thanks. I'm glad we were able to put on a show. We really want Ghostfire Media to, grow the viewership, and, hopefully 2 last lap passes and 2 AOLL races will maybe get some more eyeballs on the screens.
And made a few plugs to get a few extra people in here next time. So, but great race. Look forward to hopefully chatting with you in 2 weeks. But great win, and looking forward to chatting with you in the future.
Appreciate it. Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
No problem. All right, let's go ahead and see if maybe there was water bottle fetching again this week and chat with Mr. Daniel Shirley. Dan, this is Josh in the booth. Do you have a copy?
I do. Thanks for pulling me in here to do the second walk of shame this week.
So the question on everyone's mind, did you have to fetch a water bottle?
No, not tonight. I got it out of my system Wednesday.
So,
I messed up my water bottle. You could drink during a pit stop, and it spilled water on me, so that was fun.
So Justin let a little information out. So what was your plan only taking fuel on that last stop?
Yeah, I was watching my relative timing and scoring when I came down pit road because I didn't know what Justin had done. And it looked to me like he had only taken tires, so I didn't want to come out, another 12, 14 seconds behind him. And I guess he had just had a killer outlap and second lap and made up so much ground with his new tires that it appeared that he'd only taken fuel. So I made that snap call to only take the fuel, and it was just 1 lap short on the tires because he ate me up. And once he had a look in my favorite corner, he took the opportunity.
Yeah, it's best not to rewatch the broadcast. I may have brought that up a few times.
Oh, trust me, I was thinking about that turn on the last lap.
Well, the one thing that you can take solace in is I was watching the midfield for most of the night, and as I was recognizing we were coming to the end, I decided to look at the gaps, and I hadn't even realized that Justin had caught up to you because there was such an enthralling battle in the midfield that ultimately the commentator's curse was in full effect there, because no sooner would I say somebody made a pass, somebody would make an error.
I just couldn't hide from you this time, huh? Well, that's good. These road courses, especially a long 3.5 mile one like this, people can get spread out, running their own races. So it's good that there were definitely some battles going on with the number of vehicles we had, or number of entries we had tonight. Overall, it's pretty quiet up front for most of the race. I think I put 5 or 6 seconds on Justin there through the first pit cycle. And I wish I had gone another lap further on that first stint because that would have put me good on fuel through the end. I just had it in my head to break it up into thirds, and that was the wrong strategy, I think.
Well, in all honesty, with the speed that you guys had, and it was brought up a few times, you guys had such a gap that there was absolutely no reason to not take that safety pit stop. And
Yeah, that was actually, I factored that into the reasonings of that plan for sure. We were figuring out how long it took to come down pit road, do fuel and tires, and build that in and see what that delta looks like. So, yeah, I think that's just one of those things where next time I'm going to have plans A and B ready to go. And, it's tough when you're on a track like this where you don't have a lot of time to think or look at your software, your various crew chiefing software, and try to formulate on the fly what you want to do, because you have pretty much the back straight to kind of think things through. But even on that, you're still turning and trying to look for your brake markers. So yeah, it's tough.
It was a tough break, but as Justin and I brought up, you're still putting yourself in an amazing position while we have these guys that are constantly swapping for the wins. The constant is Dan Shirley is going to talk to us at the end of the race.
Well, I'm happy to do it there. So that's another podium, another top 5 for the record books. I think that keeps my streak alive of top 5s in all the races I started. So that's a good one. And that's probably going to be more beneficial than having a couple of wins there once we get into August or at the end of the regular season schedule. So, hey, I don't know if you're going to pull Joe. Are you going to pull Joe in next for his
I have
P3?
to. I haven't got to talk to Joe in so long. I can't avoid it. But before we do, the question
what happened to him?
The question I have to ask: we've got a week off, and then we have Charlotte. What is your plan? Where are you going to be when we hit the first intermediate in quite a while?
Oh, well, I think I said it before. Those 1.5-mile cookie cutter style tracks are the Atlantas, the Charlottes, the Texas, the Californias, Vegas, Kansas. Those type of tracks are typically my kryptonite. So I'll probably qualify poorly and mingle around in the midfield and try to sneak into the back end of the top 5 by the time we get into the last run for that race. But I'll have to look at the rest of the schedule. I don't know what's coming up on Charlotte after the break, but we'll have to see what the run-in looks like to the end of the regular season, and just make sure there's no banana peels out there.
No, but great run tonight. It was an unfortunate finish, but again, the consistency is key, and we love having you up here to chat, and hopefully we can continue this trend.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll talk to you here in 2 weeks' time, and enjoy the break.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Finally, Mr. Densmore. Hey, Joe, this is Josh in the booth. Do you got a copy?
Got a copy.
Great to chat with you.
Hey, yeah. I'm happy that I finished the race tonight. That's it.
There's something I don't know about.
Yeah, so my brake pedal failed on me when I went to join today.
Wait, what?
That was great. Yes. Yeah. So I had to recalibrate, and I used my clutch pedal as a brake pedal, and I had to learn how to do it during the qualifying laps.
This changes everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I blame your setup from Friday night. Yeah, I was expecting to be up running with Daniel. I was just as fast, if not slightly faster than him in practice. So it really bummed me out when that happened to me.
Yeah, you can blame me on Friday. That there was probably a lot of angry smashing of brakes at that point.
Yeah, but no, all in all, though, it was a great race. A lot of people, I really enjoyed, the challenge of learning the track. I just, I got in, I was like, Justin, what is your calibration on your brake pedals? Because I have not had non-hydraulic brakes in 7 years, Josh. So learning this was a challenge just to stay on the track. I had to back off all of my braking points and re-educate myself on the braking. So, but all in all, it was a great race. It was a lot of fun. I'm sweating. Hope the fans or whoever was watching. Go ahead.
I honestly have to say that with that bit of information, that just shows the level of skill that you honestly have, that you're used to 7 years of certain pedals, and in qualifying managed to throw yourself for a loop and still finish on the podium.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Josh. Yeah, I don't know how I do it when it comes to adapting to something like that. So it's just, you just got to grind through it and just, deal with what you got and just do the best you can.
No, it was a great run, and if you rewatch the broadcast, I'm hoping that now the pedal thing will work itself out, but going forward, was this the confidence boost you needed to really make the deep run into the chase and really put a fight to these guys that somehow keep winning?
Oh yeah. I'm hoping so. I'm hoping that I can get the mechanical issue or whatever is going on with my pedals, and I feel like the last several weeks I've been getting more competitive every week, and hoping, I was really hoping to have a really super strong showing tonight at COTA here, and but yeah, I'm hoping that we'll see myself in the winner's circle here pretty soon.
No, it was absolutely just a great run, and I just found out, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to be able to bring it up, but this Blake being missing for 2 straight weeks helped, but they have the points updated, so I'm actually going to be capable of giving you the quick update to where you moved up a spot to where you are now in 4th. You and Steve.
Oh, I must have dropped. Did I drop? I must have dropped missing Dover.
Yes. It was definitely, you went down 2 for missing a race, and we did miss you because I know that those are the kind of tracks that you tend to excel at.
Yeah, so, Dover's one of my most favorite track to run, so to miss that.
So the question becomes, we have a week off, and then we're at Charlotte. Where are you? Are we going to see Mr. Joe Densmore at the top again?
I want to say I'm not going to say it's the strongest track that I have. So I hate to burst the lovely atmosphere that we have here, but I mean, I want to say a top 3 easy, probably, if I keep myself clean at the Charlotte Speedway. If we get long runs, I'm really good at the long runs at Charlotte, though. So we'll have to see. I mean, one thing that Blake and I know Justin has been working on is those short bursts of 10, 15 laps, and that's something that I need to learn how to do, and not even close to my driving style. And the biggest problem with those two is that they pull out such a big gap. By the time I start catching them, they're pitting fresh tires. So, and then it's just a rubber band effect. Just got to close that short speed.
There's nothing wrong with having the long pace, but unfortunately we haven't been able to really see people capitalize on that recently, because they've been some rough races, but we're going to Charlotte, which tends to be I won't call it a more simple track to run, but it definitely doesn't have the issues of a Phoenix that has one turn that's going to throw everyone off.
That's true. And plus you have, multiple lines that hopefully will come in at this track, since, we start at 70% usage. So hopefully we'll see both lanes come in relatively strong pretty early in the race. We'll give a good show for everybody as well.
No, it's going to be... I'm looking forward to it, just because the racing tends to be very strong at these, and I absolutely love seeing you guys on these, because it is. It's an absolute blast.
Yeah, no doubt, definitely,
So
absolutely. I enjoyed driving them too myself.
But great run tonight. Look forward to hopefully seeing this be the first of many podiums for you, and we will definitely, hopefully, speak to you again in 2 weeks.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Josh, and thanks for everybody listening, and thanks for pulling this off by yourself tonight. I'm sure that was pretty tough, and look forward to going back and watching it. It was a great run for Steel Horse Racing as well.
Yeah, I was going to say the 1, 2, 3 definitely should move you guys up even farther ahead of everyone else in the team standings.
Absolutely.
But great run, and hopefully we will chat with you in 2 weeks.
All right, Josh. You have a good one. Thank you.
All right, so these are the updated point standings, and right now Justin Anderson holds on to his lead over Blake Gordon. Unfortunately, him missing 2 races does help him in having a 34-point gap, which is about what he lost by not running these races, since he is a perennial front runner. But our top 3 have not changed at all to where it is Justin Anderson, Blake Gordon, and Dan Shirley. But the big story of the night tonight is Joe and Steve Gottschalk swapping places. And Steve taking the provisional tonight did not help his standings, but it is what it is. But that's going to be just about everything for us tonight here at Ghostfire Media. Despite the fact that the Cup Series will be off this week, we will have the IVRL on Tuesday night from Charlotte. Wednesday will be the AOLL Sportsman Series from Thompson Motor Speedway. And the one I'm looking forward to the most is Thursday night. The TNT will be at Bristol in the Arcas. It is going to be fast. It is going to be just a great race to watch. And we even have a newcomer. So make sure, tune in, and we're only a few weeks away from the Fuel Racing League joining us on our Monday nights, where you will get to see both Carl and I running that. Nick Adams will be running there, and we will have Adam and Larry in the booth. It's going to be great. But this is Josh Laston signing off for the night. I will see you all in 2 weeks for Charlotte.